Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Andrea Pirrotti-Dranchak, and Andrea serves as the Chief Marketing and Development Officer for both franchise development and brand at Office Evolution, the fastest-growing and #1 coworking franchise in the United States. Office Evolution is seeing interest from companies and entrepreneurs who are now giving the benefits of rentable office space to their employees. I'm going to talk to Andrea about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Andrea Pirrotti-Dranchak, and Andrea serves as the Chief Marketing and Development Officer for both franchise development and brand at Office Evolution, the fastest-growing and #1 co-working franchise in the United States. Hi, Andrea. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm great on this Wednesday morning.
Oh,
how are you?
Wonderful, Andrea. I'm doing terrific as well. Thank you. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Andrea?
This morning, I am calling from my home office in Fairfield, Connecticut. But if you had asked me, a couple of days ago, I might have been at our co-working space in Coral Springs, Florida, or maybe our co-working space in Westport, Connecticut. I fortunately have more than 75 locations across the nation to work from. So wherever I am, I have an office.
That's terrific. Well, it's a nice segue, Andrea, into my next question. Maybe you could, tell us a little bit about Office Evolution and mainly, what differentiates you from, some of the other businesses in your industry.
Absolutely. I often say that our founder, Mark Hemmeter, must have been clairvoyant when he launched Office Evolution 18 years ago, because it is more relevant now than it was then. So we are the largest locally owned and operated co-working provider in the nation. And I underscore locally owned and operated because that's so important to all your franchises, especially to our audience out here. There's nothing that replaces that local hands-on accountability and nurturing of your members. So that is number one. Our owners are typically, execs who've had amazing careers, who are looking to start to exit, who want to be a part of still the world of business. And so the fact that we are entrepreneurs serving entrepreneurs on a local level makes it really important. The second thing is that we are in suburban markets. And now with the mass exodus from urban to suburban markets, the fact that people can live and work close to home and choose to have an office 10, 15 minutes from their home is very powerful.
It's so exciting. I mean, you were mentioning Mark, started this concept 18 years ago, and did he tap into this whole thing like right away? You mentioned it's great to suburban. I mean, did he tap into that right away? Because typically when we think of this type of concept, I think of like cities, right? Like you think of Chicago or Miami or Philadelphia, those types of places, So, I mean, it's very clever. And I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way.
Well, it is very clever, and you are 100% correct. I was a member of the leadership team that launched another company here, another co-working space here in 1999, and we launched solely in city centers. So you name it, if they had three sports teams, we were there. Mark. And that was our expansion strategy, really. But Mark went in a completely different direction. He said, no, secondary, tertiary markets. I want to be where people live and work, and I want to support that community. So we weave ourselves into the fabric of the community, and it's really important. The other thing that he said was, I want small locations. I want everybody to know each other. I want there to be a sense of community, and I want it to be vibrant. I mean, when you think of when you have a smaller location and you have more people who are connecting, it becomes a more vibrant community, a more connected community. So that's important also.
It's very important, Andrea. It's interesting. I used to teach for a small school in Philadelphia, and I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, Andrea. And when I'd have to go to Philly, I mean, I'd have to leave sometimes like 2.5, 3 hours early just to get to that location. And people don't want to sit in traffic, do they? And I just think that the whole thing is very clever.
Well, it's bad for it's bad for the environment. It's bad for your psyche. It's bad for your productivity. It takes time away from your life outside of the office. It's bad all around. And this whole great experiment of us working from our homes, for the past year and a half, it shows you can be productive when you're working remotely. But the fact is, Marty, nobody wants to have to work from their home. You want to have the choice to work from wherever you want to work from. Nobody wants to have to work from home, but you need to be productive, right? So you're not, listen, for all you listeners out there who tried working in the library or Starbucks or Panera or wherever, it's fun for a moment, but try to have a Zoom there. Try to have a call with the kids crying in the background and the barista going, right? It doesn't work. This is a place close to home that's affordable and built for work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I guess we all experienced this, Andrea, right? I mean, last year, is my son, his school was closed, of course, and he had to go online doing the Zoom, and my wife, she started working from, so you had all three of us like working and doing Zoom meetings sometimes at the same time, and it was crazy, right? In the beginning, it was great. You say, oh my God, we're all together and things like that, but it's not so easy, is it? When all 3 or 4 people or 5 people in the house are on Zoom meetings, it gets a little chaotic, and that kind of like segues, because the theme of the show last year, I mean, we couldn't do a show last year, Andrea, without talking about the pandemic, so I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about what has the pandemic showed us about the office, and more so even like the future of work.
Oh gosh, I'm thrilled. Thank you. I've been talking about this for 20 years. It's interesting. I'm a co-working expert. I've been in this category for 20 years. I've only been in franchising. So co-working, and don't tell my husband. He thinks I'm only 25. But co-working, co-working is in my DNA. And we've been through this. This category has been through downturns early, the 2000s. Right. We've been through boom times. And we've been through now a pandemic. And what happens every time after a downturn is corporate real estate folks say, oh, my gosh, I shouldn't put all of my property portfolio in long-term leases because I can't predict what my business is going to do tomorrow. How can I predict where my people are going to office? So we've been saying for 20 years, hey, IBM, AT&T, whomever, put 20% of your property portfolio in flex space. That's happening right now. And once corporate starts taking over, there won't be enough and really truly embracing flex space as a strategic solution in their property portfolio. There won't be enough space around the world that's currently open today to meet that demand. The second thing that happens is small business owners, new business starts increase. And that is the bread and butter of our member base, small business owners. And so they start to increase, and so they come to us. I have to tell you, I've had the highest number of leads in our company history on a per-unit basis for the last 4 months, and the highest number of deals because small business owners are starting to say, hey, I need a mailing address. I need telephone answering. I need meeting rooms. I need an office. And so this is crazy exciting because they're coming in and we're helping them. We're helping them to start and grow their business. And it was helpful for us during the pandemic because we collect the mail, our members' mail. We are considered an essential service. So we were able to stay open during the pandemic, which was wonderful because, Marty, small business owners have to go to work. Correct. They have to put food on their table. They need a place to go. And we were able to be there for them. So pandemic has been very interesting. Our category will continue to grow. And my feeling is that our niche, not my feeling, I just opened up another location last week. Wow. I know that our niche within this market will continue to grow too. Cool time.
It is. That's wonderful. How did Mark know, at what point, you mentioned, I guess it was like around, was it 4 or 5 years ago, Andrea, that, you decided or he started to, franchise the concept. How did he know, I guess you were ready at that time? So you didn't initially start off as a franchise, but, at some point, the company said, you know what, we can franchise this concept. And you've been successful at doing that. What prompted him to franchise the model?
So my experience in franchising, is 4 years. The company has been franchising for more than 10 years. And I think idea, franchising is just such a wonderful way to bring your product to the market in faster, right? Right. Faster. Correct. The other thing, too, is that local ownership for us is so important. We have 10 company-operated locations, and so we walk the walk and talk the talk. Everything that we do, we test through our company-operated locations first. And so we really believe in this concept. And each of our managers at our 10 company-operated locations feels that they and are treated like local owners. But as I said in the beginning, there's nothing more powerful than having these heroes in the local market who are savvy business people supporting heroes, supporting those business owners in the local market. So Mark always says it's entrepreneur to the third degree. We are entrepreneurs, and we are supporting our franchise owners who are entrepreneurs, and they are supporting their members who are also entrepreneurs. That 3-level impact, I think, is a wonderful differentiation for us.
It sounds to me, too, like when I was, studying the brochure, Andrea, that, the organization there's a culture to your organization. I can't remember the word. Was it Ohana or something like that? But it sounds like there's this corporate culture there that's very important. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was very interesting.
We are some people... some people some organizations talk about culture, and some people live it and breathe it and experience it and run their business by it. We do. Mark is Hawaiian, and he and his wife are from Hawaii, and ohana is a word for family. And we like to joke because it's not family sitting around on the porch drinking lemonade. You know, this is a tribe, individuals rallying together for a common cause, and that is true. And we speak about our ohana not only amongst our corporate team as well as our franchisees, but also our members. Talk about how we rally for those who believe in themselves and will rally for themselves. And it was very interesting because, listen, I'm a New Yorker, and I'm a little, in case you can't tell by my accent, and I'm a little jaded, you know, and I'm like, ohana, great. And over the last 3 years, I've lived it, I've experienced it, and during the pandemic, we had Zoom calls 3 times a week. And when I would look at the chat, and our franchise owners would say, thank goodness for our ohana.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just us, corporate, talking heads, feeding, our franchisees. During those calls, the last half hour of the calls would be the franchisees helping each other.
Right.
And sharing their best practice and their trials and tribulations. And it was really palpable. And that sentiment remained true throughout the entire pandemic and even obviously through to today. But when the rubber hit the wall, the ohana was there. We were all there for each other. It was really wonderful.
Terrific. Yeah, I'm glad I asked you the question, Andrea, because it's an important part of the franchise, I think, is, the organizational culture, and that's what I got was one of the, certain many benefits of the organization. I know you get to meet with a lot of prospective franchisees. I mean, when you're meeting with them, Andrea, how do you typically describe the franchise to, someone who's interested in the concept?
Well, and thank you for asking that question about culture, because that is very important. And truly, I play our 1-minute video during those intro calls, and I look at the franchise candidate's face to see if they're looking at the video. Are they moved by the message? Are they moved by the music? And that is very telling. So that is really number one. Does this ohana culture, is this meaningful to you, or do you brush it off? So that's number one. What I do say is listen, this isn't a gym. This isn't a smoothie shop.
Correct.
This isn't two maids, a cleaning thing. They all have their purpose, and they're incredibly important. This is a higher investment, okay? It is a longer and a ramp. But what it is 93% recurring revenue, single employee model, dealing with 9 to 5 business hours. You'll have your evenings and weekends. There's cash. There's no expiring inventory. And this is really important because it takes a very special person who wants to have that long-term investment. And as I say, I think when we have that when we have that person who's at the pinnacle of his or her career and they're like, I don't want to go, I want to change. I don't want to go to work every day making somebody else money. I want to have a legacy for my family. I want to do something with my husband or wife and be in this together. I'm ready to get out. I'm ready to start exiting that corporate career. And then I want to be out completely. That's my person. And I want to be that person is involved in local community activities, supporting important causes as a part of the, and giving back to that community. And their children are in their community, and maybe they're on the PTA. That's the person that we want.
You mentioned, I like the 9 to 5 aspect, Andrea, because I think sometimes, people, they want to go into franchising because, like you mentioned, like maybe they want to spend more time with their families, but then they get into the wrong type of franchise. It's a franchise where they have to work weekends or crazy hours, and, at Office Evolution, I mean, you have this opportunity of, working from 9 to 5, and then you get to go home at the end of the day and spend day with your family, which is important to a lot of people. Who are, some of the franchisees to Office Evolution? I mean, are they like, say, husband and wife franchisees? Like, what were some of their backgrounds before becoming franchisees?
Okay, and I have to correct myself. It is 8 to 5. Not to let the truth
That's
get in the
okay.
way of the good story.
8 to 5 is fine.
She said
That's
9
so
to
true
5.
today, isn't it? Right? Who starts work at 9 to 5 anymore, right? It's like that doesn't exist.
Oh my gosh. When I look around our Zoom calls and I see those faces, they are a lot of husband and wife teams, amazing dynamic duos like Mark and Joan Mendel in Coral Springs, Florida, who have their nephew Josh working for them as the business center manager, or Jackie and Mark Gottlieb, who are in Roswell, Georgia, or the Monsons in Carmel, Indiana. These are wonderful dynamic duos who are actually in the office working together and making this happen. So yeah, the idea of this husband and wife team is very powerful for us. And or John and Karen Chapowski. You know, these people are terrific. They and they come together sometimes one has more of a sales bent and the other one's more operational or hospitality. So I guess as they complement each other in their marriage, they also complement each other in business. It works nicely. Yes. That was a good question.
It's great, and I like too that you mentioned your clients to Office Evolution, Andrea, are small businesses, and I've always found small business owners just to be interesting people, and so I guess there's this nice diversity, for your franchisees. I mean, you get to have this nice diverse set of clients, don't you? All types of businesses, don't you? And I think that's fascinating.
It is, because it stimulates the mind. These people don't want to retire. Our franchisees have been in business their whole life. They don't want to retire. They want to have these business to business, and I will say human to human. It falls down to human to human conversations with like-minded people in business. And so, yes, we have the attorneys and the accountants. We have mortgage brokers. We have estheticians. We have travel people who produce wonderful travel extravaganza holidays. We have a whole gamut. You name the small business, and they are in our location. And each has photography studios. We have a woman who does eyeglass. She's an optician out of our space, and she has a whole office dedicated to eyeglasses. It's terrific. So we have a lot of really neat people who are realizing their dreams, and we are helping them to realize their business and their personal dreams within our spaces. Yep.
That's wonderful. It is. It's a fantastic model. So our listeners, Andrea, we call them aspiring entrepreneurs. We've been doing the show now 14 years, and so we've kind of like keyed in that, that most of the people that listen to our show are new to franchising. They're kind of like just beginning the process. They're starting to do research, and you've been doing this for a while now. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because many of them are confused in the early stages.
Yeah, I would really sit back and think, where do you envision yourself investing your time and your effort, right? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it what category you want to do, and what category is an extension of you, something that you're going to want to be passionate about? Because ours is a semi-absentee model, but come on, let's be real. You're running and owning a business. You got to be passionate about what it is that you're investing your time in.
Exactly.
Other thing, it's really important, how does corporate support you? We talk about a single employee model, and we do have a single employee model, and we have 20 people in our corporate staff and 10 people in our company operated locations whose sole purpose is franchisees in finding and building out the right location, helping them to manage their business plan and stay on track, driving leads, supporting sales, supporting technology. How much is corporate going to help you? And also, the other thing, too, is that, and I learned this at Office Evolution, we have a franchise advisory committee, so they really make sure that we're on track. We also have a marketing advisory committee, and we also have Z2Z meetings. And corporate doesn't really go to those Z's. It's solely Z2Z, so that the Z's can connect with each other. So when you're looking at a franchising, look at that corporate, look at the culture, look at the nurturing of relationships between the franchise owners and also that connection with the corporate team who's solely there to serve and support you in being successful.
Where do you see office evolution? If you could look into that crystal ball, Andrea, maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road, what's the future for office evolution?
Oh, well, we are going to be expanding and growing and supporting more entrepreneurs where they live and work across the nation. And, you know, I'm speaking to people in markets that never would have occurred to me before because these people are realizing because there's a mass exodus from the center cities right into the suburbs, and new suburbs are burgeoning and growing. So we'll be there, and we'll be there to support our members where they want to live and work.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Andrea, for our listeners to get more information on office evolution, as far as, of course, the franchise opportunity, but even the service itself? Are there any websites you want to direct them to?
Thank you. Yes, officeevolution.com is the brand site, and then officeevolution franchise.com is our franchise site. And listen, call me, 203-685-6291. It's so important to me to be close to and connect with our prospective franchise owners. That's the future of our organization. So call me directly.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Andrea, and I'd like to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful concept.
Well, you have done an amazing job in bringing our story to life, and I'm really grateful for the time that you invited me to share with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're most welcome, Andrea. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Today's great quote in franchising comes from Tom Scarda, and Tom is a franchise consultant for Franchise, and he's the author of The Magic of Choosing Uncertainty. And we've had Tom on the show 2 times over the last 14 years, and Tom is great at providing analogies on topics like motivation and entrepreneurship. So today's great quote in franchising is called "It Doesn't Hurt Enough." We'll let Tom explain why.
10 years with Franchise, helping them to find businesses. And what I find, and you know this from the industry, is that majority of people who look at franchising do not buy a franchise. And the number one reason is fear of the unknown. Yeah. So they go, instead of choosing, at the end of the process, you know, they're looking at great companies because we vet them, we know who's good, who's not, and you can never deny that the companies are not good when you go down the road at looking at them.
Right.
The choice is not what franchise to buy. The choice is the choice between uncertainty and unhappiness.
That's interesting.
And most people go back to the unhappiness, and because there's a comfort in that, right? So at least I get a paycheck. At least I know I have a job. At least I can pay my bills. And I got to tell you, if you think you're on this earth to pay your bills, you're always going to have a mild kind of frustration that goes through your life.
It's very powerful. You know what you said, Tom. You know, you know. We've seen that on the show too. You know, I mean, I've heard numbers like at like 1 out of 100 people will say yes to, you know, going the franchise alternative, or they'll give some kind of like excuse, like, you know, well, it's not perfect, you know. And I remember you even saying this, you know, a long time ago, is, you know, there's not really that always that perfect opportunity. You know what I mean? I mean, there's always. I think the analogy you used a long time ago was, even when, you know, you buy a house, you know what I mean? There's always going to be something with that house that you can always fix, you know what I mean? So there's never that perfect opportunity, and I suspect you get that from a lot of people because they're so terrified of going forward. There's like, well, I don't think this is the perfect opportunity for me. I suspect you probably get that a lot, don't you?
Yeah, and you're right. I think it was in Joe Matthews' great book, Street Smart Franchising.
Yeah.
He talks about that. 1 out of every 100 people that look at franchising actually buy a franchise, and that the thing for me, Marty, is it makes me sad inside, because I talk to these folks that have great backgrounds, they're phenomenal at what they do, and they can easily translate their skills into their own business and really live happily ever after, and they don't, and it's always because of fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. You use a powerful word, Tom. You know, you used happy, you know, and I think it's interesting that how many people there are out there that are, you know, working day to day, and they're just, you know, as you said, they're paying their bills, you know, but they're not happy, are they? You know, and I know a lot of those people who are working for, let's say, the city, and you know, they're going to get their pension at some point, but they just aren't happy. And I can't imagine working 40 years and not being happy, and you wonder, you know, it's really that powerful, and that's why I think your book is so important. You know, The Magic of Choosing Uncertainty is that, you know, you lived it, haven't you? I mean, you know, I'm sure, you've been through all of those things that a lot of your clients certainly have going through their head, don't they?
Yeah, I've been in their shoes. And that's why I kind of enjoy I love what I do, because I'm really able to speak to people on a, you know, a one-to-one basis that, you know, I not only have empathy, I've been there, I've done it, and you know, maybe it's not for everybody, and that's fine. I get that. Not everybody should buy a franchise, believe me.
Right.
But you know, but when you're there and you're on the cusp, and you know, it's the 11th hour and you have to make a decision, and you run away from it, it's really, really sad. And from my perspective, it is, and I think from their perspective, I just read an article last week that said 86% of Americans want to change their job today.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I think it was
86%.
86% of Americans want to change their job today, and probably maybe 1% will, get out of the corporate rat race. A lot of people will change jobs, and they're going from, one fire to another fire, and they really don't solve anything. But I'll tell you that, a great story that I share with everybody, and I think that it will go very, very well here. If you can imagine for a second, there's these two guys sitting on a porch, like two old hillbillies, right? And they're drinking their sarsaparilla, and they're rocking in their rocking chairs. And one of them has a hound dog, and the hound dog's sitting on the floor. And every once in a while, that hound dog lets out a yelp.
Yeah.
So one of these guys, one guy says to the other guy with the dog, "What's wrong with your dog?" And he said, "Nothing's wrong with the dog." So he said, "Well, why does he yelp like that?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, he's laying on a nail." And he said, "Well, why doesn't he get off the nail?" And he said, "Well, I guess it just doesn't hurt bad enough."
Wow. That's a great analogy. We're going to have to use it. We have this great quotes in franchising podcast. We're going to have to put that one in there. I haven't heard you tell that story, but I think that's I mean that's a great one. I mean, it does show how we're willing to live our lives like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It frustrates the heck out of me. And in the book, I give people what I call fuel for change, which are different exercises at the end of a couple of different chapters where you can go through changing your mindset about things.
Yeah.
And you realize after a while, all your stuff, all your baggage in that fear department essentially comes from your parents and from your upbringing telling you, no, don't do that, be careful, and if you lose, you're a loser. And that's not the case at all, because when you take a chance and if it doesn't work out for some reason, there's more life lessons in that failure than there is in any success. And I can tell you that directly from my smoothie experience.
Sure.
There's so much more to learn when you're trying to climb out of a hole than standing on top of a hill.
Yeah, and it's it must be interesting. I'm one of those people, as I mentioned, Tom. My mom is still waiting for me to go apply for the post office. I said I'm going to be 50 years old in 3 years. And I just recently completed my doctorate degree last year, and I think she's still waiting for me to go work for the post office. She just tried to instill that in me as a kid, and maybe that was my reason I went the other direction. It just didn't seem gratifying to me, not to pick on anyone who works for the post office, but I wouldn't have had that. And I love the word you use. You use this word fuel, and we had the great Michael Gerber on our show, and I know you're a fan of his as well.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Tom Scarta, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com. You can go to our franchises listed alphabetically page, and you can find Tom Scarta there. Or you can go to franchise interviews listed by category, and you can go to our franchise experts page and listen to the interview there. And finally, we just want to thank everyone for making this Great Quotes in Franchising podcast such a big hit. And we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.